After picking up the copies from the printer, Abhay would walk around the city selling them. He would take a seat at a tea stand, and when someone sat beside him, Abhay would ask him, please to take a copy of the Back to Godhead. He also went to the homes and offices of people who had already donated or agreed to see him, and he sought out new contacts, sometime on the recommendations or sometime by going uninvited wherever he could find a potential reader. This is something that, these people, exalted personality, they can figure it out. I remember that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was so expert that when he will go for the book distribution, if he thinks that this person is not, he will not waste a moment. So they have powerful inclination to find out where we are. When he did deliver copies to regular donors, he would discuss the previous issue's philosophy with them and sometimes write articles on topics they requested. Our esteemed friend, Sri Bisan Prasad Maheshwari, one of the learned advocate of the Supreme Court, has requested us to write something on the principle of fruitive action with special reference to vice and its potency. Often donors agreed to see him not on much out of genuine interest or affection as out of a sense of obligation. In their transcendental Hindu piety, they felt obliged to see the sadhu, take his paper, and even think well of him, but not necessarily to read his newspaper. Once, when Abhay was approaching a well-to-do house, the owner came out on the second floor veranda and shouted, "Go away! We don't want you to be here." Haribol. Abhay, responding to the resistance, polite and impolite, that he met while selling Back to Godhead, wrote an article, quote, "No time, a chronic disease of the common man," unquote, for the March 16 edition. When we approach some gentleman and request him to become a reader of Back to Godhead, sometimes we are replied with the word, "no time." That say that they are too busy in earning money for maintaining the body and soul together. But when we ask them, what do they mean by the soul? They have nothing to reply. Dr. Meganath Saha, a great scientist, was busily going to a meeting of a planning commission. Unfortunately, while going in his car on the road, he died and could not ask death to wait because he had no time at that moment. Dr. Ansari, the great Congress leader, while dying in a moving train on his way to home, he said that he was himself a medical man, and almost all his family men were so. But death is so cruel that he was dying without any medical treatment. Therefore, death has been described in the Bhagavad as undefatigable. Death is awaiting everyone, although everybody thinks he may not die. There is life after death. The busy man should try to know this also as to whether he is going. This life is but a spot on his longest sojourn, and sane person should not be busy with a spot only. Nobody says that the body should not be maintained, but everybody should know him from Bhagavad Gita that the body is the outward dress and the soul is the real person who puts on the dress. So if the dress is taken care of only without any care of the real person, it is sheer foolishness and waste of time. Abhay was an unusual newspaper vendor. He didn't loudly hawk his paper on the street or sell it from a newsstand. He approached the individual quietly as they sat to drink tea, or he would call on acquaintances in their offices or place of business. Taking a copy from the stack he carried underneath his arm, he would present what appeared to be an ordinary tabloid newspaper with bold black headlines across the front page. But what odd headlines! The lowest of the mankind. Philosophical problems within social awareness. Suffering of the humanity. The pure consciousness of nationalism. Anyone could tell at a glance that this was no ordinary newspaper. Abhay would say something to try to convince them to take it anyway, before they said, no time. On behalf of his spiritual master and the previous Vaishnava authorities, he was playing a role, the newspaper salesman, a smiling demoniac, a gentlemanly invitation. No, it wasn't an ordinary newspaper, but they would find it interesting, and it cost only 6 paisa. How many paisa was in rupees? Do you remember?
100.
No.
No.
How many? 16 paisa.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, 16 paisa make 1 rupee. Thus, he was extending the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, handing out the truth of the Vedas in the way easy to take form of a newspaper. Despite his desperate poverty and the urgency of his message, his writing was never shrill, strident, or fanatical. He wrote expecting to find his reader prepared to hear sound philosophy and always willing to accept the truth, especially when presented logically and relevantly and supported by the authoritative Vedic literatures. Although experience on the street of Delhi has shown him that people were shallow, distracted, and uninterested in self-realization, he knew that most, at least at some, thank you very much. He knew that most people, at least at some time in their lives, pondered the crucial themes of philosophy, whether God exists, whether he is a person, why there is suffering. So Abhay appealed to their higher sentiments. Spring of 1956 brought visit from US Secretary of State Dulles, and a few days later, Lord Mountbatten, the former Governor General of India, who was greeted at the airport by thousands. Then came the celebration of the once sacred day of Holi, when urchins spray all passerby with colored dyes. Prime Minister Nehru touched the Delhi slums, expressing disgust at the prevailing conditions. He announced India's intentions to develop atomic energy, stating its peaceful uses. The weather warmed, a border clash between India and Pakistan. Delhi railway workers went on strike, and meanwhile, Abhay continued to preach. He somehow managed to meet the financial, editorial, and printing demands and published his sixth issue for the year of 1956. The May 20 edition of the Back to Godhead, the front page carried a special notice as follows. As a matter of principle, title is, please read Back to Godhead and revive your deeper aspect of personality. There is nothing in it which is our ideology manufactured by imperfect sense perception, but all that is contains our message of our liberated sages. We are simply helping them to speak again to men and women in easy language for real life. Every responsible man and woman must therefore read it regularly at a cost of very insignificant sum of, I think, 24 rupees or something a year, 3 rupees per month. So I don't know, 2, 4 a year slash something, so it's hard to figure it out. Do not neglect it. It is for your interest and it will create a happy society of humanity. In How to Broadcast the Teaching of Bhagavad Gita, he talked about the need for spiritual organization in society, a model community which he named Gita Nagari, the village where the Bhagavad Gita is saying, would live by the Bhagavad Gita and preach its message to the world. Praising Mahatma Gandhi for his Vaishnava qualities, Abhay suggested that Gandhi had also esteemed the Gita Nagari concept. It was the only way of relief from the suffering caused by the demoniac principal leaders who were misguiding the present demoralized civilization. He was calculating how to capture the restless popular imagination. He wanted to present Krishna's teaching in a clear, straightforward way and distribute them widely. He felt that good arguments from the authoritative scripture would appeal to sane, impartial, educated people, even though they claimed to be uninterested. He knew that somehow, without abandoning his gravity and his absolute conclusion, he must capture their interest. They were relegating religion to some book of scripture on the shelf that they never read, didn't understand, or even couldn't believe. He brought it to them as a newspaper, yet it was as good as the scriptures. No, it wasn't what they expected in a newspaper, but they might read it. The chanting process of the holy name of God, as conducted by the propaganda of Back to Godhead, is not pleasing to the superficial pleasure hunters, describing men and women in indecent literatures and rational news, but it is the means of relishing the transcendental eternal life. So in addition to selling back to Godhead at tea stall and delivering copies to donors, Abhay also mail out free copies, both within India and abroad. For years, the vast audience of English-speaking readers outside India had concerned him, and he wanted to reach them. Having gathered address of libraries, universities, and cultural and governmental outlet outside India, he mailed as many back to Godhead as he could afford. He prepared to let He prepared a letter for his Western readers, suggesting that they should be even more receptive than his countrymen. Although the messages contained in Back to Godhead are all gifts of the ancient sages of India, who actually realized the absolute truth, yet at the present moment, the so-called leaders of India are too much enamored by the Western way of material advancement of knowledge. They are completely neglecting the treasure house of knowledge left by the Indian sages. You gentlemen of the Western countries have seen much about material science, and yet peace is not within your control. In most cases, you may be feeling the want of peace, although you have enough materially. This basis defect of materialism remains undetected by the misleaders of India, and therefore they are not serious about going back to Godhead, the ultimate aim of life's journey. On the home front, Abhay Abhay sent copies of his latest issue Back to Godhead to the President of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, along with a letter warning of the perilous fate that awaits a society conducted by asuras. Quote, please therefore save them from the great fall downs. Abhay's letter of November 21 was outspoken. I have got the clue of going back to Godhead just after leaving my present material body, and in order to take along with me all my contemporary men and women of the world, I have started my paper Back to Godhead as one of the means to the way. Please don't think of me as something wonderful or madman when I say that I shall go back to Godhead after leaving my present material body. It is quite possible for everyone and all of us. Abhay requested His Excellency at least to glance over the headlines of the enclosed 12 copies of the Back to Godhead and consider granting the editor an interview. There was immense work to be done on behalf of India's spiritual heritage, and there should be a specific ministry of spiritual affairs for this purpose. Haribol. Quote, I'm crying alone in the wilderness at the present moment, unquote, wrote Abhay. But His Excellencies never replied. In his Back to Godhead, Abhay was making propaganda against the atheistic view. In Hope Against Hope, he frankly admitted that 80% of the people he met while selling Back to Godhead were atheists. Haribol. Someone we met, gentlemen of up-to-date taste, and try to make them interested in the matter of back to Godhead, they say very frankly that they have not only no interest in such theistic subject, but also they condemn the attempt to bring back people in general to the path of back to Godhead. Haribol. According to this gentleman, economic conditions of the Indian people deteriorated on account of their too much oh, that's all I have. I think I thought that may be the enough, but maybe not enough today, because I don't want to carry heavy books. So everything happens by the will of Krishna. We will stop, and I'll have to also little bit late, get ready, fly back to Houston, back home. So thank you very much. I think it's an opportunity. Anybody has any question, comment, corrections, or suggestions, please do so. Krishna, yesterday while we were chanting in the temple, I was reading some children's storybook, and it's so profound. And how Krishna is so kind. Couple of things that I would like to share what I read. So one was the Sudama story, that he was really has so much. He went to the school with Krishna. They were very good friends, and they have so many things that they did together. So, but he has so much faith in Krishna as a Supreme Lord, and he devoted his life totally for the spiritual journey. He was really poor, struggling for maintaining even the simple family life. He cannot even put the food on the desk, table for the family member, that poor. So, but he was very happy. He was living, he doesn't have any desire to accumulate wealth or anything, whatever he can. So his wife one day keep on telling him that Krishna is your best, because he must be speaking about Krishna, because he studied with him and he has realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So his wife one day requested him that, your best friend Krishna, why don't you ask him something for him so we can at least relieve from this, poor conditions. If you have little even, that's okay, but they don't have anything like that. Even when Sudama, this is the greatness we should learn, that when his wife says, then he said, he was dwelling actually, and he was in his mind just to satisfy his wife, but internally he was thinking that, it would be so nice after a long time, I'm going to spend some time with my real friend. So when he accepted what his wife was recommending, he right away think that when I visit my friend, I should take some gift. What a nice example, He doesn't have anything to give to Krishna. But still his desire is there that I should carry something. So they don't have anything in the house that they can offer to Krishna. So his wife went to the neighbor's home and get some cheap rice. And in the torn cloth, just put little bit and give it to Sudama. Now Sudama goes there. And as soon as the Sudama, the gatekeeper, they knows that he is a Brahmana. And so they let him go. And Krishna was sitting with Rukmini. As soon as he saw Sudama, he recognized him. And right away he called out, "Hey Sudama!" And Sudama responded, "Krishna, Krishna." And they hug each other. And I think that afternoon and the night, they must have spent the time together, remembering these childhood pastimes they had together. An amazing thing that Sudama even never remembered that for the purpose that his wife has sent him to Krishna. He completely, he just relished those wonderful pastimes they had together in the life. He never asks. But Krishna is so kind. He understands everyone's situations. He wants to help. We don't have to ask from him, but simply what he needs, like a Sudama, dedication. So Sudama, when he went home, when he entered in the village, he was even thinking that this is my village, or where did I came? I came at the wrong place or what? Because his hut was converted in a big palatial building. And his wife was decorated with wonderful sari ornaments. He cannot even recognize his wife. So when wife saw Sudama, she came forward and then she introduced to Sudama, "I'm your wife. Look what Krishna has done to us." So this is so nice to see that the Krishna, even though Sudama didn't ask for it, he understands and he do necessary thing. So profound. And there was how beautiful Krishna, how intelligent. Everything is so perfect with Krishna. So I really like those stories. So one story that I really like was that how wonderful Krishna is, that everything he does is so thoughtful. By thinking everything, small thing he thinks. So one time the one traveler, he was traveling in the afternoon. Sun was really bright. It was so hot. He had little glass of some bottle of water, but not enough. So then he saw in the middle of the walk the big banyan tree, and he felt so nice. Because when you are really in heat, scorching heat, and you find some shade of the tree, it's really cooling. So he was walking so long, so he felt tired. And when he get that nice breath, cooling breath underneath, nice cooling shadow, he thought that let me take little rest underneath the banyan tree. So while he was sleeping, he just saw, that I remember there's like a orange color of small fruit comes on the banyan tree. So the person who was sleeping, he was thinking, Krishna is perfect, but I don't know why he did this mistake. That he created the whole big banyan tree, but he just put little fruits on it. The tree is so strong that it can take so much of the big fruit it can carry. So why did he make a mistake? And then he was contemplating that on a vine you see the pumpkins. And he said that vine is so weak. Then he gave the big pumpkin. So Krishna, how can he do this? So during that time still he was contemplating, and the big wind came. Big wind came. Everything, the leaves, whatever was drying up little, and some of the fruit also fell down. And some of the fruit hit his head. And then he realized how God is so think about everything so perfectly that he knows the big tree is there to give some relief to those journeymen to take Arnadet. Now if he had made those fruits like a pumpkin on that. And if it hit on his head, he said, I must have died. So then he really appreciated that Krishna is so wonderful. Everything he does, whatever he has created, is so with intelligence. If we just follow the natures what he has given to us, then we can live very peacefully, very happily. Everything is created so perfectly well, and it's our misfortune that we cannot understand his message, and we derive our own plan to become free from the miseries. But if he simply follows, he is a creator, a wonderful, he is a wonderful person, very kind. We can never find the best person in our life. But somehow or other, the material attachment is so strong that drives us away from Krishna. So we have to meditate on this thing and adjust our life accordingly so we can remain steadfast in our practice. Because the story also of the Bharat Maharaj, that because he was thinking, he was meditating actually, he went to the forest to deeply meditate on Krishna, give up everything. And he was very much meditating on the bank of a lake. And there was a deer, and then heavy thunderstorm came with a lot of cracking noise, and the deer actually died. But the deer gave a birth to the small baby. And seeing the Bharat Maharaj became so much dwell on the life that who is going to protect that? So he bring that baby deer, and he was completely 24 hours, he was meditating on Krishna. Since he got the baby deer, he was taking care of it, and then all this thinking will go. But what happened? That he have to come back in the form of a deer. But it says in the storybook that because Bharat Maharaj was so staunch in his devotion, whenever he was performing his religious activities, meditations, it was so profound that Krishna gave him the intelligence that he remembered everything in the previous life. So he became a Jad Bharat, and really he was like in ordinary sense, he was acting like a dumb person, but he was really elevated personality who even then become the spiritual master of Rahaguna, the king, because he was carrying the palanquins and the whole story. So nice to read these wonderful pastimes. Krishna is so kind. So I think we have reached our time, maybe 3-4 minutes even more. So thank you very much for joining this beautiful morning. And if Krishna so desire, we will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. And then enjoy your day. Try to bisect your day in different segment, starting with 8 hour at least, 3 to 11, 11 to 8. Put some priority what you are gonna do, and then keep track of it on a daily basis, how successful we are. We can do anything ourselves, but by putting some effort and making some goalpost, Krishna will be kind upon us and we can reach those goals. And then slowly we can bisect more and more. This is how we will be able to remember Krishna at all the time. Thank you very much. Have a blissful day. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 2 o'clock. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhaya patitanam.
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत
Thank
कोटि वैष्णव की जय। थैंक यू।